The Succulent Selection College Basketball Podcast, SEC edition, with me, Sniffy McGee, is next. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The Succulent Selection College Basketball Podcast, with me, Sniffy McGee. Today we're going to be discussing the SEC. We're going to be tiering the teams and placing them and telling you who I believe is going to win this conference. As usual, I do this in 4 tiers. Tier 4, the teams that have no shot to win this conference. Tier 3 are the teams that I believe could make the NCAA tournament if things break their way. Tier 2 are contenders and should be surefire NCAA teams. And then Tier 1 are the teams that I believe can actually win this conference. So why don't we start right now with the SEC last year bringing in 14 of the 16 teams actually made the tournament last year. The only 2 teams that failed to qualify were LSU and South Carolina. This year, I do not expect to see 14 in. I'm going to say 11, maybe 12. Why don't we just dive right into this and start with Tier 4. First team up there in Tier 4 is South Carolina. Went 2-16 last year. Lamont Paris head coach. It was only 2 years ago that this team was actually in the NCAA tournament. But after going 2-6 last year, I don't really see too much improvement coming this year. I mean, maybe more than 2 wins, but not too many more than 2 wins. Moving on to the next team, we got LSU last year going 3-15 under head coach Matt McMahon. He could be in trouble this year. Another team that's got no shot, according to me. 14 of the 16 made it last year. I don't see LSU or South Carolina making it this year. Those are the only 2 teams I actually have in Tier 4. Since everybody else made it last year, I'm going to give everybody else the benefit of the doubt and put them in at least Tier 3. So beginning my Tier 3 is going to be Georgia. Under Mike White last year, went 8-10, went to the dance as a 9 seed, I think, or 8 or 9, and got destroyed by Gonzaga. And now I see a step back coming this year. I do not predict back-to-back dances for Mike White and the Georgia Bulldogs. Moving along, we got the next team up, Mississippi State. Chris Jans went 8-10 last year. They lost to Baylor in the round of 64 as well last year. I trust Jans to get this team to the dance, but his defensive mentality will definitely be pushed by this roster. Not sure they can play the defense that he actually likes to employ. Next team on the list I have is Tier 3, Texas A&M. Last year they went 11-7 under Buzz Williams, but now he moves out and Bucky McMillan comes in, bringing his style of Bucky ball. I have this as kind of a wild card team. I have no idea what I'm going to witness. Are they going to be able to play the Bucky chaotic style that he brought from Sanford? Does he have the guys to play that style? Can they handle that style? You usually have to play like 10 guys because it's just too frenetic. You just run out of gas. How does Pop Isaacs fit in? This is a pretty good roster built on a short time frame. Usually when you get a coaching change, you really don't get to make a roster this good. Next team on the tier 3 as well. The 6-12 last year, Sean Miller led Texas. Sean Miller comes in from Xavier last year to take over Rodney Terry. Texas has that name value, and I feel like they're going to crowbar their way into the tournament even if they don't really deserve it, kind of like they did last year. And so I guess in a weird way, Sean Miller ended Texas's season last year, in the first four, and he ended Rodney Terry's tenure as coach, and then took his job and actually became the new head coach. That's brutal. You better watch his wife. Sean's Miller could be coming for his wife next. The next team I have on this list is Missouri. They went 10-8 last year under Dennis Gates, a year after going 0 and the season, 0-19 if you want to count the conference tournament game that they lost. This year they lost to Drake in the round of 64, and I think it was just a bad draw for them. They seem like a team that was going to go a little further than that, but it feels like this team's going to take a step back from last year. I got no real feel on this. I see a multitude of outcomes coming here. I'm going to go with a step back. I mean, they're not going to go winless again. I can guarantee that, like they did after the last tournament appearance. But I don't know if this team is going to make the tournament or not. So that's going to move us up now to tier 2. These are the teams that I believe are contenders and surefire should be locks to make the NCAA tournament. The first team I have on that list are the Auburn Tigers. Last year they won the conference at 15-3. Now they're under Bruce Pearl's son, Stephen. Bruce Pearl retires, forces Auburn basically to give the reins to his son, Stephen. I think this team was going to be taking a step back even if Bruce Pearl was the coach. But this is definitely going to be another tick down, in my opinion, with Stephen Pearl taking over. And I mean, if you don't want to give them a tick down, and you think this team is just going to pick up right where they left off, even without Bruce Pearl, then you don't think Bruce Pearl was a very good coach. This is definitely a tick down. They should be a back end top 25 team most of the season. Next team on my list I have is Vanderbilt. Last year going 8-10 under Mark Byington in his first year. Middle of the pack to me. I have them in between the contenders and the bottom tier teams. We'll see somewhere in the middle. I could go 8-10 again. I don't see them contending, and I don't see them dropping. I don't see the bottom dropping out either. I think they'll be in a very similar spot, maybe 9-9, right in that middle area though. Next team on the list is Oklahoma. Under Porter Moser, they went 6-12 last year after starting, I believe. I think they went 13-0 in the non-conference play. And then can Oklahoma actually get to like 8 or 9 conference wins this year? Because I cannot stand teams that make the NCAA tournament going 6-12. You won a third of your conference games. Not only did they make the tournament, they were given like what 9 seed. I lost to UConn in the round of 64. This year, I think this team could surprise. I think they can make a move up in the standings. I think they can get to at least 9 or 10 wins. I believe that. Now this team I believe might take a step back from last year. Last year they went to I believe it was the Sweet 16. Ole Miss went 10-8 last year under Chris Beard. I've seen a few varying predictions on the squad. I'm just going to trust in Chris Beard that he can safely get them into the dance. Not a true contender to win the SEC, but should just be safely in the dance. And now we're going to move into Tier 1. I have 5 teams in Tier 1. These are the 5 teams that I believe will be contending for the SEC title. First team in that list I have is Arkansas. Last year they went 8-10. John Calipari now entering his second season after going to the Sweet 16 last year. They can't start off like they did last season. The whole season it changed after beating Kentucky at Rupp in Calipari's return to the building. Without that win, if they would have lost that game, they may not have even made the tournament. They picked up some wins late in the year just to get to 8-10. Freshman Darius Akov, who's number 5, 2025 recruit, is joining the team. DJ Wagner returns for his junior season. Originally thought as to be a one and done. That hasn't really worked out for him. I don't know if he'll ever reach his true hype. And then senior Trayvon Brazil is back too. I see them in the back end of Tier 1. I don't know if Cal has enough coaching left in him, or if he's too reliant on his talent doing everything for him. I think he just might get out coached on some of these games, and he's just gonna have to roll the balls out mentality and see what happens. Next team I have on the list is going to be Alabama. Last year they went 13-5. Nate Oates. They went to the Final Four the year before, then the Elite Eight last year. Can Nate Oates bring them back to the Final Four, or are they going to slide a little the other way? I think they're going to slide a little bit the other way. I think they might. They're a second weekend team, but I don't think they're going to get out of the Sweet 16 this year. I have them below the top three teams in the SEC, but definitely a top five. Next team I have on the list is the Rick Barnes-led Tennessee Volunteers. 12-6 last year. They've had back-to-back Elite Eight losses. Still looking for Tennessee to get into its first Final Four. Can Rick Barnes do it? I don't know. They got Gillespie this year from Maryland and five-star recruit Nate Ament. I still have them behind the next two teams. I don't see them being as good as Florida, Kentucky, which brings me to Florida, who the reigning national champs, 14-4 last year under head coach Tom Golden. Can they pull a UConn and go back to back? I don't think so. Guess they're returning the front court bigs of Alex Condon and Thomas Hawk, but the whole backcourt is being replaced. Gone is Walter Clayton Jr. Gone is Elijah Martin. Gone is Will Richard. In comes Boogie Fland from Arkansas. I have them only behind this team. Kentucky. Last year went 10-8. Mark Pope, I have them as the favorite to win the SEC this year. Mark Pope's got himself a crazy deep team. He could go 11, 12 guys deep. And the only issue I see with that is keeping the locker room happy. But at plus 410 to win the conference, they are my succulent selection to win the SEC. They got Otega Owe, potential SEC player of the year. And Arizona State transfer Jaden Quintons, once he returns from injury, could really elevate the team as well. The interesting part is going to be what the playing time situation is when he does come back from injury. Mark Pope has a little bit. He has to feel a little bit like Joe Torre right now. Really, he's managing the egos, the locker room, and just has to keep everybody on the same page. And if he does that, my plus 410 bet will be cashing in. I'm rooting for you, Mark Pope. Don't let me down because I will come for you. You do not want to hear me come for you during the season. And now, how many of these teams do I actually think is going to make it? I'm going to say 11 or 12. I'm going to say that South Carolina does not make it. LSU out. Georgia out. So that knocks it down to what? 13 right there. Between the teams I have in tier 3, one or two of them won't come in. And if I had a pick, I'd probably say it's going to end up being like Missouri probably misses the tournament. I'm going to say 12. 12 get in this year. No more 14, but 12 teams will get in. And that concludes the Succulent Selection Show podcast edition of the SEC picks and predictions. Give me the Kentucky Wildcats one more time at plus 410 to win the SEC. Sniffy McGee heading out. See you next time.